So Season 3 of Netflix's A Series of Unfortunate Events is getting fantastic reviews, and I can say with confidence that it's the best season of the whole show, which is now, unfortunately, over. But this season was also jam-packed with mysteries, secrets, reveals, and just tons of information that requires lots of keeping track of. So today, I recap, review, and explain all of Season 3. Hey everyone! I must say that I'm sad this show is over after such a short run, but it had the perfect finale to it. Critics have been raving about it, claiming that it compares excellently to the books and is more unfortunate than ever. Since there's so much to talk about and theorize on with ASOUE, especially for the third season, I decided to make this video first, which will be broken into 3 parts: recap and explanations, thoughts relating to the plot, and a review. If you'd like to skip to any particular section, you can do that by going to the time intervals on the screen right now. But anyway, let's start with a recap of the most important things that happened this season. Major spoilers ahead. Season 3 premieres with parts 1 and 2 of Book 10 of Lemony Snicket's book series, The Slippery Slope. Here, in the Mortmain Mountains, we meet Quigley Quagmire, the man with a beard and no hair, and the woman with hair and no beard for the first time, officially meet Kit Snicket, and reunite with Carmelita Spatz. In part 1, Violet and Klaus meet up with the Snow Scouts led by Carmelita, and eventually get let out of their cave by Quigley, who shows them the vertical flame diversion. Meanwhile, Kit has an encounter with the man with a beard and no hair, and the woman with hair and no beard, and escapes them by falling down a cliff and activating what seem to be artificial wings. Kit has the sugar bowl during this moment, which is why the 2 villains are after her, but she loses it when she plunges into the water. We later see Olaf and his troop come into contact with the man with no hair, and you know who I'm talking about, and they reveal themselves to be Olaf's mentors, with Olaf even calling them his mother and father. The episode ends with Quigley removing his mask, proving that Jacques was talking about him and the Quagmire fire, when stating that there was a survivor, which many expected. Part 2 was a really good episode, but doesn't have much important information to deal with. The majority of Olaf's troop breaks up with him, including, to my disappointment, the white-faced women, and a flashback shows how Olaf's mentors took him in just before the Schism. The Beaudelaires escape Olaf by tobogganing down the stricken stream until they encounter the Queequeg in the Grim Grotto. Here, we meet Fiona Wittershins, the captain of the ship, whose VFD mission is to find the sugar bowl, and are reintroduced to Phil, the worker who lost his leg at Lucky Smells Lumber Mill way back in Season 1. Klaus figures out that the sugar bowl is now located in a grotto near a VFD site called Anwhistle Aquatics. After discovering that the site was burnt down, the Beaudelaires meet up with Quigley again, who takes the sugar bowl, and we're exposed to possibly the main villain of the season, the Medusoid Mycelium. It's the reason why the Beaudelaires cannot join Quigley, as the mycelium waxes during this time, and Sunny brings some back to the Queequeg in her helmet. In part 2, Sunny is cured by using horseradish, or in this case wasabi, and the backstory behind Fiona and the hook-handed man is revealed. The 2 are brother and sister, and the hook-handed man, or Fernald, was the one who burnt down Anwhistle Aquatics years ago in order to stop the mycelium from getting out. The Beaudelaires escape Olaf's clutches and end up back on Briny Beach with Mr. Poe, all while Fiona trades Sunny's mycelium-filled helmet for the life of Fernald. Moving on to the penultimate peril, part 1, we get the return of a few characters from Season 2, including Larry your waiter, Vice Principal Nero, Jerome Squalor, and Babs. The Beaudelaires were given the option of going with Mr. Poe or going with Kit in the final scene of the Grim Grotto, and we get to see the repercussions of going with Kit here. Assigned to be spies at the Hotel Denouement, the Beaudelaires work on gaining information from Olaf, Esme, and Carmelita, all while keeping up with the strange VFD tasks assigned by Frank, Ernest, and they later learn Dewey. Justice Strauss is revealed to be the JS, who has invited everyone to the hotel, as she wants to put Olaf on trial. The episode ends with the death of Dewey, just after he showed the Beaudelaires the secret library of the last safe place, and Lemony Snicket himself arriving at the scene. Next, we get the penultimate peril, part 2, which actually feels like the ultimate peril of the series. Its main event is Olaf's court case with Justice Strauss, and inevitably, Olaf gets away because of biased judging. However, the biggest part of this episode is that we finally learn what happened at the opera. Lemony and Beatrice were together, and Kit and Olaf were together when Beatrice stole the sugar bowl from Esme Squalor. This led to everyone drawing out poison darts, and ultimately, Olaf's father getting killed by Beatrice, but Lemony is blamed for it. Back in the present time, the Baudelaires get Olaf to set the hotel on fire so that he doesn't release the medusoid mycelium, and the quartet cheesily ventures off into the sunset, setting sail on the Carmelita too. The show ends with the only one-part book, The End, which shows what happened to the Baudelaires and Olaf after the penultimate peril. They wash up onto the shore of an unknown island, whose leader is Ishmael. Olaf gets locked up in a birdcage, and the Baudelaires discover that Ishmael is actually the founder of VFD. When Olaf breaks out, Ishmael harpoons him and the helmet holding the mycelium, which is released into the air, causing the entire island population to evacuate. The Baudelaires learn that a cure for the mycelium is apples, and use this to save themselves and to help Olaf try to save Kit. But since Kit is pregnant, she refuses to take the cure, and both she and Olaf end up dying next to each other. The Baudelaires spend a year on the island taking care of Kit's child until leaving on Decision Day. The last scene we get is of Lemony meeting up with the child, now known as Beatrice Beaudelaire II, to discuss what happened to the Beaudelaire orphans. So that was a lot to recap, but now I'll talk about some of the things I'd like to theorize on in the future. One thing I definitely want to discuss is the character of Ishmael, and how his whole island was created in the first place. In the books, Ishmael was not revealed as the founder of VFD, he was merely a VFD member, and his whole existence on the island seems suspicious. Why do VFD members seem to find this island when they're escaping from something? Another thing I'd like to cover is the medusoid mycelium and Anwhistle aquatics, and discovering what the mycelium is, why it's so dangerous, and why Gregor Anwhistle would put a VFD site so close to it. I'll possibly discuss why Fiona seems so untrustworthy throughout the Grim Grotto, and why Violet even says that there's something odd about her. This show doesn't usually drop these lines without resolving them, so was there a conspiracy going on? And of course, I will be releasing part 2 to my ultimate Mr. Poe theory in just a couple weeks, adding in the evidence we get from Season 3. This season also answered a ton of questions we had, and I'll go over some right now. Kit tells us in the final episode that the sugar bowl holds a type of sugar that acts as an immunization towards the mycelium. We find out what happened at the opera, and how Olaf's father was killed by Beatrice, the basis behind the schism. We see villains much more powerful than Olaf prowl around, as well as the reveal of several VFD workers and strongholds. We also get to see why Lemony is the way he is, desperately trying to track the Baudelaires, as he blames himself for not rescuing them from the hotel. Dewey Denouement is not just a myth like Olaf seems to believe, but an actual person and VFD worker in charge of the Hotel Denouement library, located under the pond, and the last safe place is the Hotel Denouement. But moving on to my review of the season, it was definitely the best season of the whole show, and I would give it an A-. Season 3 focused on plot much more than humor, which made each episode more gripping. I thought that part 1 of the Grim Grotto was the best episode, though part 1 of the Penultimate Peril comes close, while part 2 of the Penultimate Peril was the worst because of how drawn out it was. But as a whole, the season is a very satisfying conclusion to the series, ending on a shot of the city, which is in the shape of the VFD logo. We don't know what happens to the Baudelaires besides what we hear from Beatrice II, giving the show neither a fortunate nor unfortunate ending. We also see the deaths of Olaf, Kit, Larry, and presumably many of the hotel guests take place, so possibly the man with a beard and no hair and the woman with hair and no beard. I thought that Season 3 also did a good job to further characterize the Baudelaires and Olaf, as all 4 of them are faced with difficult decisions, and Olaf is isolated for the first time. Great season, wrapping up a great show. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Series of Unfortunate Events content. I also make videos on Harry Potter, Pixar, Stranger Things, sports, and more, so go check those out as well. Tell me what you thought of Season 3 in the comment section. See you later.